The silent guardian, the discovery in the veil. Captain Alina. Vasquez pressed her palm against the cool metal of the observation deck window, watching the impossible sight before them. The research vessel Harmony drifted silently through the purple mists of the Veil Nebula, but it was not the swirling cosmic clouds that held her attention. Floating in the void ahead was a structure so massive it defied comprehension. The construct stretched 4 kilometers in every direction. Its surface a seamless blend of crystalline formations and metallic panels that seemed to shift and flow. Like liquid mercury, strange geometric patterns covered its hull, pulsing with a faint inner light that created mesmerizing displays across its surface. No ship, no matter how advanced, should have been able to maintain such perfect structural integrity while drifting in the harsh environment of deep space. Captain, the Zeltharian delegation is requesting another attempt, announced Communications Officer Maria Santos from her station. Her voice carried the weariness of someone who had watched countless failures over the past 3 weeks. Alina turned from the window to face her mixed crew. The Harmony was part of the Galactic Research Consortium, a joint venture between dozens of species, all working together to unlock the mysteries of the universe. Today, representatives from 7 different civilizations had gathered to study this ancient enigma. Dr. Marcus Chen, the ship's xenogeologist, looked up from his data tablet. His dark eyes reflected the same frustration they had all been feeling. The Zeltharians are the 4th species to attempt contact today. The Korvaxi tried their harmonic resonance technology this morning. The Threnody used their psychic projection techniques. Even the Valdarians attempted to interface with their quantum consciousness bridges. And let me guess, Alina said, settling into her command chair, absolutely nothing happened. Worse than nothing, replied engineer Sarah Blake from the engineering console. Her red hair was pulled back in a messy bun, evidence of the long hours she had spent trying to understand the construct's technology. The structure doesn't just ignore the attempts, it actively dampens them. Every signal we send gets absorbed completely. Every energy beam gets neutralized. It's like the thing is designed to reject specific types of interaction. Alina nodded toward the main view screen. All right, let's see what the Zeltharians have planned. The view screen shifted to show the sleek, bioorganic vessel of the Zeltharian delegation. The ship itself seemed alive, its hull pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that the Zeltharians used for communication. As they watched, the alien vessel extended several tendril-like appendages toward the massive construct. The Zeltharians were known throughout the galaxy for their ability to communicate with technology through biological interfaces. Their ships were grown rather than built, and they could literally speak to machines through chemical signals and electrical impulses. If anyone could awaken the sleeping giant, it would be them. The pattern of rejection, the tendrils touched the construct's surface, and for a moment, the alien patterns on the hull seemed to respond. The geometric designs shifted slightly, as if acknowledging the contact. Then, just as suddenly, the patterns returned to their original state, and the bioluminescent glow of the Zeltharian ship dimmed to nothing. Zeltharian vessel reports complete. System shut down, Maria announced. All biological interfaces have gone dormant. They're requesting emergency technical assistance. Alina rubbed her temples. This was exactly what had happened to every other species that had attempted contact. The construct seemed to have a different rejection mechanism for each type of approach, as if it had been specifically designed to repel the unique abilities of every known intelligent species. Dr. Chen, what's your assessment? She asked Marcus. stood up from his station, his expression thoughtful. "Captain, I've been studying the patterns on the construct's surface. They're not random. They're definitely some kind of language or communication system, but it's unlike anything in our databases. The interesting thing is how they change when different species approach." "What do you mean?" "Watch this." Marcus activated a holographic display showing recordings from the various contact attempts. When the Korvaxi approached with their harmonic resonance, the patterns shifted to geometric shapes that mirror their mathematical communication style. When the Threnody used psychic projection, the patterns became flowing, organic forms similar to their thought speech. It's as if the construct is trying to communicate back, but something prevents it from completing the connection. Sarah looked up from her console. "That's consistent with what I'm seeing in the energy readings. Every time a species approaches, the construct's power levels spike dramatically. It's trying to do something, but then the energy dissipates harmlessly into space." Alina studied the image of the massive structure. "So it wants to communicate, but it can't. The question is why. Maybe it's damaged," suggested Maria. "Or maybe," Marcus said slowly, "it's waiting for something specific. Something that none of the species we've seen so far can provide." The bridge fell silent as they all contemplated this possibility. The construct had been discovered 3 months ago by a Korvaxi deep space probe, and since then, 12 different species had attempted to make contact. Each had failed in their own unique way, as if the structure had been specifically designed to reject their particular strengths. "The human approach, Captain," Sarah said, looking at her engineering readouts. "I've been analyzing the energy patterns from all the failed attempts. There's something interesting here. The construct doesn't just reject the contact, it adapts to it. After each species tries their approach, the structure's surface patterns change permanently. It's learning." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "Learning what?" "I think it's cataloging the different types of intelligence it encounters, building a database of who's out there and what they're capable of. But here's the thing, humans haven't tried to make contact yet." The observation struck the entire bridge crew. In all the excitement of having so many advanced alien civilizations working together, the humans had taken a backseat role. They were the newest members of the Galactic Research Consortium, and their technology was considered primitive compared to most of the other species. "What could we possibly offer that the others couldn't?" Alina asked. Marcus was already pulling up files on his tablet. "Captain, there's something unique about human neural architecture. We're the only species that integrates logic and emotion in our decision-making process. Most other species have either purely logical thought patterns or purely emotional ones. We're the only ones who blend both seamlessly." "You think that might be relevant?" "I think it might be everything," Marcus replied. "What if the construct isn't just looking for advanced technology or psychic abilities? What if it's looking for a specific type of consciousness?" Alina made her decision. "All right, we're going to try. Sarah, prepare a standard communication probe, nothing fancy, just basic audiovisual transmission capability." "Captain," Maria interrupted, "shouldn't we coordinate with the other delegations first? They might have protocols for this sort of thing." "The protocols have failed 12 times," Elena replied. "Sometimes the simple approach is the best approach." "Sarah, how long until the probe is ready?" "Give me 10 minutes to configure the systems." As Sarah worked, Alina found herself thinking about what made humans different. They were physically weaker than most species, technologically inferior to many, and they lacked the specialized abilities that other races had evolved. But they had something else, a stubborn refusal to give up, a curiosity that drove them to explore the unknown, and an emotional depth that allowed them to connect with others in ways that pure logic never could. That first response, the probe launched smoothly from the Harmony shuttle bay, its small thruster engines carrying it toward the massive construct. As it approached, the alien patterns on the structure's surface began to shift, just as they had with all the previous attempts. "Probe is in position," Sarah reported. "All systems are green. What do you want to transmit?" Alina looked around. The bridge at her crew. These people had become like family to her over the years they had spent together exploring the galaxy. They trusted her judgment, even when she wasn't sure she trusted it herself. "Open a channel," she said. The communications system activated with a soft chime. Alina took a deep breath and began to speak, not as a captain addressing an unknown alien intelligence, but as a human being reaching out to another conscious entity. "Hello," she said simply. "My name is Alina Vasquez. I'm the captain of the research vessel Harmony. We've been watching you for weeks now, trying to understand what you are and why you're here. We've seen other species attempt to contact you, and we've seen how you respond to them. We know you're listening. We know you're aware." The patterns on the construct's surface shifted, but instead of the geometric transformations they had seen before, these changes were different. They were more fluid, more organic, almost like the visual representation of a heartbeat. Asterisk. The patterns were becoming more complex now, swirling across the construct's surface in waves of color and light. The energy readings on Sarah's console were climbing steadily. "We know you've been alone out here for a long time," Alina said, her voice growing softer. "We know you've been waiting for something. Maybe you've been waiting for someone who could understand not just your technology, but your purpose, your loneliness." Suddenly, the entire construct blazed with light. The patterns on its surface exploded into brilliant displays of color that painted the surrounding nebula in shades of gold and silver. The energy readings on the Harmony's instruments went off the charts. "Captain," Sarah shouted over the alarms, "I'm reading massive power fluctuations. The construct is dictating." As they watched in amazement, sections of the structure began to unfold like a flower blooming in fast forward. Hidden chambers were revealed, filled with technology that seemed to blend physics and artistry in ways that defied conventional understanding. The geometric patterns that had remained static for so long now flowed like rivers of light across the construct's surface. Then, impossibly, a voice filled the bridge. It spoke in perfect English, but with an accent that suggested vast age and wisdom. "Welcome, children of Earth," the voice said. "I have been waiting for you for so very long." Asterisk, the awakening protocol. The ancient guardian speaks. The voice that emerged from the construct was unlike anything the crew of the Harmony had ever heard. It carried the weight of millennia, yet it held a warmth that seemed to reach directly into their souls. Captain Alina Vasquez found herself gripping her chair as the reality of first contact with an ancient intelligence settled over her. "I am the guardian of the threshold," the voice continued, its tone gentle yet filled with authority. "For 3 million years, I have waited in the darkness between stars, watching civilizations rise and fall, always searching for the one species that could awaken the resonance protocol." Dr. Marcus Chen leaned forward in his chair, his scientific mind racing with questions. "Guardian, you say you've been waiting specifically for humans. How could you have known about us when our species is barely a few 100,000 years old? A sound that might have been laughter rippled through the communications system. Time flows differently for those who watch the cosmos unfold. Dr. Chen, I have observed the patterns of evolution, the way consciousness develops across different worlds. Your species carries within it a unique combination of traits that I have seen emerge only once before in the history of the galaxy. Once before, Alina asked. The builders, the Guardian replied. The ones who created me and the other threshold guardians. They, like you, possessed the ability to blend logic and emotion, to make decisions based not only on cold calculation but on empathy and intuition. It is this combination that makes you capable of understanding the true nature of the threat that approaches. Engineer Sarah Blake looked up from her console, her expression worried. Guardian, you mentioned other species have tried to contact you. Why didn't they succeed? Each species that has approached me possesses remarkable abilities, the Guardian explained. The Korvaxi have mastered mathematics and physics to a degree that allows them to manipulate reality itself. The Threnody can project their consciousness across vast distances, communicating without words. The Zeltharians have achieved perfect harmony between technology and biology, but all of them lack the one thing that is essential for what must be done. Which is, Alina asked, the ability to choose hope over despair when faced with impossible odds. The capacity to sacrifice for others without logical justification. The power to inspire others to greatness not through force or manipulation, but through genuine caring and determination. The revelation of the void swarm. The Guardian's words were accompanied by a shift in the construct's external displays. The swirling patterns of light began to form images, star charts, battle formations, and scenes of destruction that made the crew's blood run cold. The void swarm returns, the Guardian announced. Every 47,000 years they emerge from the spaces between galaxies to consume all organic life. They are not evil in the way you understand evil, they are simply hungry. They see consciousness as a resource to be harvested, creativity as energy to be absorbed. The images showed vast fleets of dark ships, their hulls seeming to bend light. Around them, where they passed, star systems went dark, and the very fabric of space seemed to wither. The builders created us, the threshold guardians, as a defense against the swarm, the Guardian continued. But the defense cannot function without the right kind of consciousness to guide it. The builders knew they would not survive the next cycle, so they seeded the galaxy with the potential for a species like themselves to evolve. Maria Santos looked up from her communications console. Are you saying that humans were designed to fight this threat? Not designed, but guided, the Guardian replied. Evolution follows patterns, but those patterns can be influenced. The builders ensured that when the time came, there would be minds capable of understanding what needed to be done, and hearts capable of doing it. Alina felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on her shoulders. Guardian, what exactly is the resonance protocol? The construct's patterns shifted again, and suddenly the bridge was filled with holographic displays showing the locations of similar structures throughout the galaxy. There were dozens of them, all dark and silent, waiting. The resonance protocol is a galaxy-wide defense network, the Guardian explained. Each threshold guardian controls a sector of space, ready to deploy weapons and defenses that can repel the void swarm. But the system requires a specific type of consciousness. To activate it, one that can make decisions based on compassion, rather than pure logic, one that can inspire others to fight not just for survival, but for the future. Sarah was studying the energy readings from the construct. Guardian, I'm seeing incredible power levels here. What kind of weapons are we talking about? The weapons are not important, the Guardian replied. Technology alone will not defeat the Void Swarm. They have faced advanced civilizations before and consumed them all. What matters is the will to use the weapons, the wisdom to coordinate the defense, and the ability to unite diverse species in a common cause. The test of worthiness. Marcus stood up from his station, his face pale with realization. That's why the other species couldn't activate you. They're too specialized. The Korvaxi would approach this as a mathematical problem. The Threnody would see it as a battle of minds. But humans, Humans would see it as a story, Alina finished. With heroes and villains, sacrifice and redemption. We'd fight not just because we have to, but because we choose to. Precisely, the Guardian said. But understanding the nature of the task is only the first step. The resonance protocol requires more than intellectual comprehension. It requires an emotional commitment that goes beyond rational calculation. The construct's patterns began to shift again, and suddenly the crew found themselves surrounded by a three-dimensional display of the galaxy. Dark clouds were moving between the spiral arms, advancing toward the core worlds where billions of beings lived in peaceful ignorance of the approaching threat. The Void Swarm will arrive in 18 months, the Guardian announced. That is, sufficient time to activate the full defense network, but only if the resonance protocol is initiated now. The choice must be made freely, with full understanding of the consequences. Alina looked around at her crew. These people had signed up for exploration and discovery, not for cosmic warfare, yet she could see in their eyes the same determination that had driven humanity to explore the stars in the first place. What are the consequences? She asked. To activate the resonance protocol, a human consciousness must bond with each threshold guardian. The process is irreversible. Those who accept the bonding will become part of the defense network, gaining vast knowledge and power but sacrificing their individual existence. The bridge fell silent. The magnitude of what was being asked hit them all at once. They were being asked to give up their humanity to save the galaxy. How many guardians are there? Alina asked quietly. 57 people would have to sacrifice everything to save trillions of lives. The mathematics were clear, but Alina knew that mathematics wasn't what would drive this decision. The choice of heroes. Dr. Chen was the first to speak. Captain, I volunteer. Marcus, no, Alina said immediately. We need to think about this. I have thought about it, Marcus replied. I've spent my entire career studying ancient civilizations. I've seen how they rise and fall, how they struggle against impossible odds. This is our chance to be part of something greater than ourselves. Sarah looked up from her console. I'm in too. If we're going to do this, we need people who understand the technology. This is insane, Maria said, but her voice carried admiration rather than criticism. You're talking about giving up everything, are we? Alina asked. Guardian, what exactly happens to the human consciousness during the bonding process? You become part of something larger, the Guardian replied. Your individual memories and personality remain, but they are enhanced by connection to the cosmic defense network. You gain the ability to perceive threats across vast distances, to coordinate responses instantaneously, to inspire others to greatness even from beyond the physical realm. Alina realized that this was what humanity had always been moving toward. Every story of heroism, every tale of sacrifice for the greater good, Every moment when someone chose to put others before themselves had been preparing them for this moment. Guardian, if we agree to this, how do we convince the other species to follow our lead? They're more advanced than us in most ways. That is the beauty of the resonance protocol, the Guardian replied. It does not require the other species to be led. It requires them to be inspired. When they see humans willingly sacrifice themselves for the future of all life, they will remember what they have forgotten, that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from what you can do, but from what you choose to do. Alina made her decision. Guardian, I accept the bonding, but I want to send a message to Earth first. They need to know what's happening, and they need to choose the other 56 volunteers. The message will be sent, the Guardian agreed. But Captain, are you certain? Once the process begins, there is no turning back. Alina looked around the bridge one final time. These people had become her family, and she was about to leave them behind. But she was also about to become part of something that would protect not just her family, but all families everywhere. I'm certain, she said. Let's begin. The awakening, the bonding process, was unlike anything Alina had ever experienced. She felt her consciousness expanding, touching the edges of thoughts and experiences that spanned millions of years. She could perceive the locations of all the other threshold guardians, feel the sleeping potential of the galaxy-wide defense network, and sense the approaching darkness of the void swarm. But she also felt something else, hope. Not just her own hope, but the hope of every species that had ever looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. The hope of children who dreamed of exploring the cosmos, of scientists who sought to understand the universe, of ordinary people who simply wanted to live their lives in peace. Through the network, she could sense the other volunteers as they bonded with their guardians. Marcus was there, his consciousness now expanded to encompass the archaeological records of 1,000 civilizations. Sarah was there too, her understanding of technology enhanced beyond imagination. All across human space, 57 people were making the same choice, giving up their individual existence to become something greater. The network is active, Alina heard herself saying, though she wasn't sure if she was speaking aloud or through the cosmic connection. The resonance protocol is online. Throughout the galaxy, the other species watched in amazement as the human volunteers transformed. The Korvaxi, with their advanced mathematics, calculated the probability of success and found it increasing exponentially. The Threnody, with their psychic abilities, sensed the determination radiating from the defense network. The Zeltherians, with their biotechnological mastery, felt the life force of the galaxy itself responding to the human sacrifice. One by one, the other species began to commit their own resources to the defense, not because they were forced to, but because they were inspired to. The humans had shown them what it meant to choose hope over despair, to fight for the future rather than just for survival. As the void swarm approached, they would find the galaxy united as never before, protected by a defense network powered not by technology alone, but by the most human of all qualities, the willingness to sacrifice everything for others.